In this week's show, we're going to be discussing with you the elements of a high-performing ad.
Welcome to JFDI with the two Lauras. This is the weekly show where we dive into all things related to working as a freelance social media manager, from marketing, content, business tips, ads, you name it. We discuss it here on the show, answering all your questions and diving deep into loads of different topics, and occasionally having the odd rant or getting stuck down a rabbit hole, or Laura Davis forgetting how to kind of string a sentence together when she's trying to tell us some sort of saying. We've said it all on this show. So on the show today, we're diving into ads, meta ads to be specific, and we're talking about the elements of a high-performing ad. So there's lots of different pieces that go together with this. You may have questions afterwards. Feel free to drop into our Instagram DMs. We're at the two Lauras over there, or leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube, and we can come back and answer those after the show. So let's start then with the most, maybe it's the most important, maybe it's not. I think all of these are important, but the first thing that I would think about as the most important element of a scroll stopping, high performing ad would be the creative, because that's the bit that makes our brain stop, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I just think there's no point spending hours writing this killer copy and having this amazing ad campaign if no one even stops scrolling.
Yeah.
So you've got to have something that jumps out and
that can go for organic content too, by the way. Like if you're only doing organic, that's super important.
Yeah. Probably all of these comments maybe relevant really to organic content, but yeah, it's got to stop the scroll. So you have to think, is if it's just a photo, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't call out the people you're trying to speak to. It doesn't kind of resonate with anybody. There's nothing identifiable to make someone go, ooh, what's this? Or, wow, what's this? It's got to create that reaction, doesn't it? It's got to make somebody...
But it's not even, someone doesn't actually have to think about it. It's subconscious.
Yeah.
Us scrolling, our brain makes a subconscious decision to stop our thumb from scrolling. Then we take over and think about what we're looking at, all of that stuff. So, and it's the subconscious movement of a video, colours of a photo, pattern, kind of the disruptors, maybe text in massive screens. It's all of those things that make our brain trigger to stop our thumbs from moving. So you have to kind of think about, okay, if I was scrolling, would this stop me? Have a look in your feeds and see what stops you. Different people react to different things. Yeah. But there will be some things that we will all react to. So if we're scrolling through a feed, for example, and it's like, this doesn't really happen these days, but back in the day, Facebook used to be very white. There was just a lot of text. People didn't really share a lot of photos. And if they did, they were all very similar. Like on Instagram, we all used to use filters. Something bright and like bright yellow with black text on it would be jarring. We'd be like, whoa, what is that? So we'd stop scrolling. And you can still create that effect despite there being lots of content on there now. You just have to think about what's different.
But there's an art to it in that you don't want to make it look like an ad.
Oh, 100%.
So you want it to stand out and stop the scroll, but you don't want it to stand out because it's an ad.
And because remember, people absolutely hate ads. It's not just that they don't like them, they despise them. They're constantly moaning about there's too many ads on social media. So you don't want yours to look like an ad because they will hate it.
Yeah. So the over-polished, the just ad graphics that you can imagine you'd see in your local paper, something like that is not going to stop someone scrolling. It's things like maybe someone's face that they think, oh, do I recognise that person? It's the text, like we'll often use big, bold text with keywords on that text so people will stop. It's not just pretty things. It's not just faint on-brand writing that you can't read. But it's, you really have to think in that split second that person subconsciously often will stop the scroll. It's got to be quick. It can't be, someone's going to consider this ad and think, am I going to give it my time? It does not work like that.
Yeah.
So scroll stopping creative is super important. And I'd love to sit here and say, you have to have this, you have to have that. It has to be bright yellow. It has to be this. It's, as we've said, it's going to be different to for every different brand, your different audiences maybe within that brand, depending on what you're trying to sell, different, times of the year, different seasons. There's all sorts of variables that will mean that it will make it very difficult for there ever to be a defined, this is the rules of how to create a scroll stopping creative. But there's lots of things you want to bear in mind, but you're going to have to then test it with your audience, with your client's audience, and keep testing. Never rest on your laurels.
Yeah. With copy, I would say that's a bit different. I think there are a couple of rules that you could definitely stick to with copy, because your copy in your ads is super important, and it would depend on where that ad is being shown. But generally, the first few lines of that ad are the most important pieces of your ad copy, because on most platforms, that's all somebody will see unless they click to open to read the rest of it. So, and it's like the same if you're creating LinkedIn content, Facebook content, like whatever. People can only see that top bit. You've got to kind of grab them and make them read the rest. So that's really, really important. Your ad copy also really needs to speak to the people you want to attract, because if they're reading through ad copy, they need to know that this is for them. If you think about how different people react with ads and engage with ads, some people will see the creative, that's enough, they'll click over to the ad. Other people will see the first lines, that's enough, they'll click over. If they've done those two things and they still haven't clicked through and they're reading the copy, it's because they don't know it's for them yet. So your content needs to make sure they understand it's for them. So it needs to speak to the audience. And then, like I just said, depending on where you're seeing it, you need to optimize it for the placement, because some placements will show less text than others, and you want to make sure that works well too.
Yeah, so imagine you've got a long piece of copy that may be brilliant. It's really long, which is what I hate, but it may be working. But you can't put that, 5 paragraphs on an Instagram stories placement. You've literally just got that graphic. So how can you change it to fit those different platforms? Placement, is really, really important. And the amount of times I see ads that just, I can imagine, work on one platform, but they're not working on the platform that I'm seeing it, just because they've not tweaked for the different placements.
Yeah, definitely.
Just on the copy as well, and again, it's dependent on the placements of where these ads are showing, but that headline is really important. That often is what people will look at. They'll go for they'll stop at the creative, they'll look at the headline, and then they'll go up and read the copy, and it's the copy which will make them obviously take the desired action. But that
for
headline,
people who are listening and can't see what you're doing with your hands, where are you talking about in relation to a headline?
So the headline will sit underneath the image. So this is more likely to be like on your Facebook feed. It will sit underneath, and it will be next to your call to action button. So it's only, I wish I'd checked now, 60 characters, maybe 40 actually. It's small, but it's really important. So what can you put in there? And it will depend on where you are in the funnel. It will depend on whether you're trying to appeal to a cold audience or a warm audience. But it's really important that again, people can either be pulled in with that because it's a great caption, or it maybe identifies the person, or it shares an offer. Maybe it uses it to share some social proof. Like there's lots of options in terms of what you can use in that headline. And sometimes you can just test your headline. Just keep changing your headline and seeing which one works best. But it's a really important part of a good creative, I think.
Yeah. When it comes to your copy as well, your call to action is so important. If you remember what I just said, some people, will take action early, but the people who read through the whole copy, if there isn't a call to action at the bottom of it that tells people what to do next, they may not do anything. So you want to make sure you give them a call to action. It needs to be one call to action. And on an ad, it will probably be, click here, or go and buy this thing, or download, or whatever. It won't be like and comment and share and etc., which it shouldn't be anyway, and organic. But on an ad, it's really, really important that you just give people one thing to do so they can go and do it easily.
And obviously that thing being aligned with what the goal is of that particular ad.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've covered kind of the creative, like what it looks like, but I think what's going to be equally important as to whether something is high performing is to whether you've targeted the right audience, and it's the right audience for what you're trying to sell or promote. And that is the key like so many people will often be like, oh, I can just target everyone. No, you can't. Knowing who you want to speak to, and the more you know about that person, the better. And yes, with meta ads now, there is a lot more machine learning. There is a lot of AI involved in some of the audience targeting. But knowing who you want to speak to, and this goes for your creative as well, and and I'm talking the specifics about these people, not just where they live, and whether they're male or female, and maybe their age. It's like, where do they shop? What do they like to do? Where do they hang out? What kind of holidays do they take? Are they the people who like luxury? Are they the people who don't? Can they afford luxury? Can't they? It's all of these things that if you don't know this stuff, you can't create the right content for them, and you can't build the right audiences in your campaign build. So taking the time to understand this kind of stuff is so important. Having these conversations with your clients. I've worked with clients for over 6 years, and I still learn new things about the audience as we have these conversations. So you keep wanting to have the conversations, ask the questions, because the more you know and the more you can get that audience bang on, the more you're going to get better results, and the most cost-effective results.
For sure. Would you say that this is all the same if people are just retargeting?
Well, some of the elements are all the same. You've still got to have a good, strong creative. You've still got to have great copy. But it's what you're saying in a retargeting campaign is going to be different, because you're going to maybe share some offers that you don't want to share to the cold audience, but you want to for the people who have been around for a while. They've checked out your website, maybe checked out your products, but they've gone again. Maybe they just couldn't be asked to get off the sofa to get their wallet. You can retarget
Story of
them.
my life.
Yeah, you can retarget them with free shipping if it's e-commerce, or a discount even, or if you buy something now, you get something else. And so you don't want that to go to all and sundry, but you do want it to just go to a small proportion of the audience to kind of push them over the edge. So things like your offer will be key to share. You don't want that in the see more area of your copy. You want that in your headline, on the actual image maybe, or right at the top of your copy. So you want that. So you would kind of lead with that, I guess. And also, I think in your retargeting, you want your branding, the images, you want it to all be consistent. So if they've been on your website and, they then get a retargeting ad that looks completely different, there's so many ads and so much content out there. They don't realise that that's retargeting for what they've just looked at. So you want there to be that kind of seamless consistency, so they know straight away, oh look, this is this brand, I've just on their website, or I've just engaged on their social content. This is kind of the same vibe.
Yeah, it's like the same products. If they've looked at a product, seeing that same product being used by somebody, or in being unpacked, or it's in the box or it's out the box. It's like seeing the same thing but in different ways. That's the consistency, isn't it? They're still seeing the same product, but it's not the same image always.
Yeah. So I think it's just about thinking a bit further down that funnel, isn't it, when it comes to retargeting ads? Like, these people kind of know you, but they might not know you that well. They might literally have seen your top of funnel ad, gone and looked at a product and left. So they don't necessarily know everything about you. And maybe that's why your retargeting maybe does need to help with that. They need to get to know you more. So that's what you do on your retargeting. So you're more funnel aware when you get to those retargeting, as to understanding what your audience needs to know to come back to then make that conversion. So it's all similar, but a bit different.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're creating organic content for your clients, and you are then creating these retargeting campaigns, which, spoiler alert, you should be doing, because you can get paid for them, you can help your clients get better results, all of that stuff. That's the sort of thing you need to think about, is what's been happening in my organic content? What have I been talking about? Where have I been sending them to? So therefore, how can I then bring them back? What have we been focusing on in terms of our goal for the organic content? How can the retargeting ads kind of align back with that to help us to achieve that goal? And if all of this sounds like completely alien to you when we're talking about these retargeting campaigns, you may have heard us talk about clickback campaigns. It's the same thing. We've got a training manual that will help you with this. If you go to thetwolauras.com/CBC, we'll also put that link below. You can go and grab our clickback campaigns training manual, and that will help to explain all of this in terms of like what these campaigns are, what they look like, the kind of results that your clients can be expecting, the things that your clients need to have set up so you can set these kind of campaigns up, and the information that you need to know so you can sell this idea to them in the first place, so that then you can obviously charge for these things. So go and grab that. That will definitely help you to get started with these clickback campaigns, these retargeting campaigns. So you can layer that into your business as another service. It's definitely worth doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's where the magic happens.
Yeah, and the money. So quick recap then. We need to have really good scroll stopping imagery video. We need to have great copy that speaks to the right people. Those first few lines are really important. We need to optimize it for the placement. We need to have a strong headline. We need to have a strong call to action. We need to make sure it's being shown to the right people. And we need to make sure that the right people are being shown the right thing at the right time. And that, my friends, is how you create a really high converting ad campaign. Simples.
Whoop, whoop. Easy.
Love it. So yeah, if you've got questions about any of this, come and ask us anything. We're always open for a chat. But for now, that's it.
Yeah, we'll be back this time next week.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Ta-ra!
What language am I saying goodbye in today? Auf Wiedersehen!
Arrivederci. Is that bye?
That's Italian, isn't it? I don't know.
I don't actually know.
Or is it Portuguese? Who knows? Anyway, toodles!
Bye!